The sub £3,000 price point on the used car market. It's an interesting place. You can find plenty of bargains that are proof you don't need to have an expensive car payment if you don't want to, but equally well, there are some terrible cars out there that are definitely best avoided. So on this evening's Brew and Browse, let's have a look and see what we can find. So here we are back on Auto Trader. Make and model is wide open. The only criteria that we've got at the moment is a maximum budget of £2,500. £2,500, it's not a lot in today's money, but I'm confident we can find a couple of good ones and probably a couple of bad ones as well. So what are we opening on? A Peugeot 308, what a beauty. Get a load of that, look, it was actually cheaper on the 22nd of November. Maybe he got too much interest in it and he's bumped the price back up. I mean, these things, they're presentable. They don't corrode and rust like some of the Japanese alternatives. So they look good, but mechanically wise, arguably, you'd be better off with one of the Japanese alternatives. You could get the odd injector problem. DPF problems, as with anything this age and diesel, are likely to appear. The odd turbo problem could get quite expensive as well. So I think we can do a little bit better. If your heart does sing for a 2010 silver Peugeot, one thing to bear in mind is about halfway through the production cycle of these, they made a change to the gearbox. Fifth gear used to be really revvy at motorway speeds. They added in a sixth gear. So yeah, if it has to be one of these for you, then look for one of them that's got that 6-speed gearbox. But as I say, I think we can do a little better. Next up, what we got? Vauxhall Astra. It's the 1.6, so that's an Astra J, if my memory serves me right. Good cars. However, that 1.6 was not best liked by most of the public. It wasn't inherently unreliable. Yeah, I mean, sure, you got some niggly bits, the coils, thermostats could go on them as well. The biggest problem with this engine is it was so slow. Now, the Astra is not a lightweight car to begin with, so putting a pretty underpowered engine in it, it meant it was a bit dire to drive, and it hurt the economy as well because you're having to rev the stones off these things to get them moving anywhere, particularly up at motorway speeds. So really, it wasn't all that economical either. So again, I think we'll skip over that one. We can do better. Peugeot 207, okay, yeah, it's the 1.4 HDI. It's a bit like the 308 we were just talking about. So yeah, let's skip over. Oh geez. I do apologise, people. We're off to a bit of a negative start here. Vauxhall Corsa, 1 litre. No. And we're talking about performance here. We're not looking for a performance machine. We're not after a speed machine. But what I'm trying to recommend to you here is something that's reasonable in terms of motorway speeds. This is not it. 1 litre, you could run faster. These things were famed when they came out because they were so slow to accelerate to 60 miles an hour. I think they took 17 or 17 and a half seconds. That's when they were brand new as well. So no, the other thing as well, reliability wise, timing chain problems, timing chain tensioner problems. These, quite often you hear them start up when they're cold, they're really rattly. That's a timing chain issue. So no, the 1.2 is bad enough. The 1 litre is even worse. They're similar. The 1.2 is just a little bit smoother. Either way, no, just avoid it. Here we go. Skoda Octavia. Looks like a taxi. I bet that smells like a taxi in the back as well. I'm actually surprised that we can get this on our budget. Actually, that 1.6, it is completely uninspiring in every way, just like the car. There is nothing really to write home about with one of these. It is vanilla ice cream in the car world, but downright reliable. That's why we see them used as taxis with 250,000 miles on them all over the place. The biggest shock of this is that we can get it on our budget. Almost seems a little too good to be true. Now, a massive tip I can give you, do this with any car you're buying, but definitely do it with one that's on the cheaper end of the scale that seems a little bit too good to be true. Get a note of the plate, SW59BNJ, SW59BNJ, and head here, vehicle score. Now, I'm not trying to sell you anything here. The reason the vehicle score check is really good is because it's completely free to do this. It'll give you all the details about the car. So we can go through, and we can also see things like the history. Now, let's go look at this. Vehicle underbody covered with underseal, right? Okay, not necessarily a big problem, but it might suggest it's hiding something a little bit sinister. That's why we're seeing that lower price. And if we search through a little bit further, yeah, there you go. There's loads of corrosion notices and general corrosion, front suspension component corroded. That's why we're seeing this car a little bit cheaper, because it seems to have a bit of corrosion going on there. So yes, vehicle score, absolutely priceless when it comes to getting a bit of background on the car you're buying. Even if you don't spend any money, but you should buy one of their paid HPI reports as well on any of these that you buy. So yes, that's awesome, but that specific model looks like it's a little bit crusty underneath. So no, let's move on from that. I'm disappointed. I thought we had a real find there. Okay, next up, a Fiat 500. What do you think of these? Because I think it's either going to be you would be seen in one or you wouldn't be seen dead in one. It's going to depend on you, but let's talk about it from a sort of factual reliability standpoint. We'll take the style out of it for now. Personally, I quite like them. I think they're quite funky for the right kind of person. It's got the 1.2, so you're going to find one of two engines, certainly on this budget. You get the 1.2 like we've got here, or you get the 0.9 twin-air turbo engine. That 0.9 engine is an absolute peach. It's lovely. It's super torquey. It sounds like a big Vespa. It is the embodiment of the Fiat 500, the little Italian Fiat 500. It suits the car perfectly. However, it's a slightly more complicated engine than this 1.2, and for that reason, if reliability is key, if budget is low, that's the engine you want, the 1.2. It's a prehistoric thing, it's been about forever, and if it does go wrong, it'll cost you about 50 pence to fix. The 500 platform in general, it's a little bit Italian, a little bit finicky. You're going to get door handles falling off, questionable bits of trim, some rattles and stuff, but I mean, come on, they're funky little cars. They don't go all that wrong. They're cheap to fix, cheap to run. As I say, for the right kind of person, that's going to be a sure bet. So get that on the short list. Little Fiat 500. Here's another one. Hyundai i10. It's getting more positive. I told you we would find some cars in this budget. Hyundai i10. Great little car. These are, I don't want to say badge snobbery, but these are overlooked by a lot of people because they are Hyundais, and you shouldn't. They're great little cars. This and the generation that came after it. We've got a buyer's guide on the channel for that. Shameless plug, I know. But these are great little cars. Okay, what's next? Vauxhall Vectra would be fairly insignificant, but it isn't because of the engine that it's got in it. Look at that. It's got the 3-litre CDTI V6. Quite a nice engine, actually. That was an Isuzu engine, believe it or not. And CDTI, it actually sounds like what this car is. It sounds like an undercover policeman, don't you think? These were used by the police a fair bit, traffic cops and stuff, proper old school CID traffic cop sort of thing going on here, isn't there? As I say, it was an Isuzu engine. Now, these engines were also used in a Saab. I can't remember the exact model of Saab that they were used in. You'll have to forgive me. Someone can maybe drop it in the comments section below. But in said Saab, they got a bad reputation. And the reason for that is it was said to be a smaller engine bay and the cooling wasn't as good in that platform. So they got a bit of a bad rep for that. But it wasn't the case in the Vectras. They were actually okay in the Vectras. Now, what I would say about this is if it's a recreational purchase, let's say, if you've got a couple of grand and you're having a punt, you want to buy something quite fun, yeah, by all means, this would be it. But if you are on a budget, you need to rely on the car, it's going to be your sole mode of transport, you need it to be economical, this 3-litre Vectra is not going to be it, so let's search on. Next, a Land Rover Freelander 2. A Freelander 2 for £2,500. This is why I love scouring Auto Trader, because you get absolute gems like this. Let's just ignore the fact that it's done almost 160,000 miles, because I'm getting carried away with it here. And what I'm going to tell you might shock you. That 2.2 engine that was actually that was actually one of the more reliable Land Rover engines from this era. So that thing would probably be okay. I mean, let's be real. If it is more of a recreational purchase, a bit like that Vectra that we were looking at, then yeah, fill your boots. You're going to be fixing this thing in one way or another. But it would probably be okay. It's likely going to be more reliable than you expect. I mean, look at it. Desirable looking thing. Turn up in that. You're going to have a hard time convincing people that you've only paid £2,500 for it. But as I say, let's be real here. Recreational purchase only. Label it the same as the Vectra. Back to being sensible. Peugeot 3008. Okay, so maybe you're looking for a big car. Maybe you got a big family. You could do worse than this. You absolutely could. What engine's in it? Hopefully not the petrol. Let's see. It's the 1.6 diesel. Yeah, okay, so let's be alright. Again, injectors, DPF problems can be common, but it's £2,500. You're not going to have an awful lot of options of cars this size at this kind of money. And you could do a lot worse. I mean, look at it. Clean and tidy, isn't it? And no, it's not going to live forever, but very few cars at this budget are going to, are they? Okay, next. Here we go. We're on a hot streak now. Toyota Yaris 1.3. The epitome of reliability, especially at this budget. Personally, I would say at this kind of price, that's the sort of thing you want to be looking at. Japanese reliability from the Toyota. The only thing to watch comes with Japanese rust as well. So get on that vehicle score, have a look at the old MOT histories, do your homework on the car that you're buying. But otherwise, they're presentable, nice little cars. They drive okay, bit uninspiring, but we can't have it all. Uber reliable. Oh, that one is an auto. Not a massive problem, not a deal breaker, but if memory serves, these are a 4-speed automatic box, so it does hurt the economy a little bit. If you can find a manual, personally I'd go for the manual, and of course, if you can drive a manual, go for the manual. Now, there is one manufacturer that you do want to be having a look at on this budget when reliability is king. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know I'm a bit of a Honda fanboy, but it's for good reason. They are super reliable when you're on a tight budget. So let's have a look and see what's on offer with them. So we've got, right off the bat, a couple of Civics. These are good options. We've got a 1.4 and we've got a 1.8. Personally, I'd probably plump for the 1.8, a little bit more powerful. The thing to be careful of on this era of Civic is they don't have fully independent rear suspension. Now again, we're not looking for a speed demon car. The reason that this is an issue is they use a solid steel rear beam, and that beam has been known to rot. You've seen loads of them swapped out in the last couple of years, particularly on the Sport Air models. So again, it's going to be absolutely key to do your homework on these. Make sure it's not too rusty when you buy it. Otherwise, Civics are a solid bet. Mechanically, very robust. We do have a CR-V there, unrealistic mileage, but it is a Category S car, so it's had a bump at some point. Enough of a bump that it's been structural damage and it's been put back together. Who put it back together, how well they done it, these are all variables. So for that reason, I would generally say avoid cat cars if you can. It opens up a whole other dynamic of issue. Next up, what have we got? We've got another Civic, and then we've got a Jazz. This is Honda's answer to that Toyota Yaris that we were looking at a second ago. They're probably going to be as reliable as each other. It just depends which you prefer. Again, rust is the big issue on these Jazzys, so do your homework. Use that vehicle score check that I showed you. Absolutely imperative on these cars. Now, what we've got here is worthy of a mention, worthy of a talking point. You obviously get them as manual and you can get them as automatic. In this era, which is probably what you're going to be looking at on this budget, you might find this, the CVT gearbox. Now again, it's not unreliable or problematic. It feels like one big gear. They put 7 on it. It's a CVT 7. It had a button on the steering wheel and you could use the paddles and it kind of emulated gears. That's not really important. Just make sure that you like the way it drives. It's not like a traditional slush box automatic. I think they're quite good. I think it fits the car. The one little problem that these CVT gearboxes could have is they could stutter when you're getting going. Now that's a problem with the starter clutch. I've got a way in which this can be fixed. It involves following a procedure with the gearbox. If you're kind of handy with spanners, you could do it yourself. You do this procedure, then you swap out the gearbox oil. If you do own one of these, or you buy one and it's got a bit of a stutter as you pull away, then this remedy might just work before you need to spend a bit more money on them. But yes, reliable cars, super reliable. The cockroaches of the car world in the best way. I'm very fond of them, but that's the best way of putting it. They are like the cockroaches of the car world. And where we're going to wind this video down to a close is on this Mark IV Honda CR-V for £2,500. This is a lot of car for the money. Let's talk about it, because you're probably looking at that mileage. Over 200,000 miles, but I own one of these cars. I owned a couple of older CR-Vs as well. They've all been super robust, super reliable, most reliable car I've ever owned. So I would bet this thing has still got a good few miles left in the tank. Granted, it's the 2 litre petrol I own. There's a little bit more going on with these 2.2 litre diesels, but it's still going to be super reliable. I don't think in about 85,000 miles, my CR-V has had a single replacement part, put it that way. So this thing is probably going to be good for some time to come. And all for £2,500. What more do you want? Now, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments section below, especially if you think I've missed a couple of cars off of this list. Although, it's not really my fault, we are just going through Auto Trader. Either way, if you've enjoyed it, drop a comment. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.